Hey guys, welcome back to Silent Hill 2. Last time we had left off, we were at Brookhaven Hospital, so we're gonna pick that up right where we left off. And we're at 2 hours and 37 minutes in doing the game, so not bad overall. So we're actually gonna read this right now because this is a pretty important file. It seems to be about the patients hospitalized here. Okay, let's check it out. Jack Davis. He has attempted suicide 3 times in the past for reasons unknown. Although he is normally a model patient who follows doctors' and nurses' orders, he must be watched closely due to his past pattern of sudden and violent suicide attempts. Joseph Barkin. His illness seems to be rooted in the fact that he believes he is guilty of causing his daughter's death. His symptoms suggest a psychotic break and paranoid delusions. Normally calm, but has a tendency towards violence when excited. Josh. History of hospitalization as well as numerous assault, battery, and other violent offenses. He has a strong persecution complex and a tendency to solve things through violence. Extreme caution necessary. So this is actually a comparison to the 3 characters we're going to meet in the game, or that we just met: James, Eddie, and Angela. I won't spoil which one is which, but yeah, it's definitely a comparison to them, a simile or a metaphor for them. Outlining what is wrong with each of them, pretty much the cause of their why they're in this town in the first place. So we're gonna try something a little different here. You'll notice that the brightness is set a little higher because I noticed this game was dark as hell. The price of using the grain filter, I guess, which we're definitely gonna skip that in Silent Hill 3 because it is just way too dark and grainy, but for now we're stuck with it. So I raised it by 1 bar, so we'll see, and if it's not bright enough for the YouTube videos, I'll raise it a little more. I don't want to raise it entirely simply because the brighter it gets, the less effective this game is, so that you really don't want to be seeing too much of what is in these areas. Something is written on it. The potential for this illness exists in all people, and under the right circumstances, any man or woman would be driven like him. The other side perhaps may not be the best way to phrase it. After all, there is no wall between here and there. It lies on the borders where reality and unreality intersect. It is a place both close and distant. Some say it isn't even an illness. I cannot agree with them. I'm a doctor, not a philosopher or even a psychiatrist. But sometimes I have to ask myself this question. It's true that to us his imaginings are nothing but the inventions of a busy mind. But to him there is simply no other reality. Furthermore, he is happy there. So why, I ask myself, why in the name of healing him must we drag him painfully into the world of our own reality? Something else is written by hand. I got the key from Joseph. It's probably the key to that box. Got the purple bowl key. So that's an important item we'll be using later on. So that's a really fascinating memo. It's a really interesting one because it really calls into question the notion of reality. You know, it's talking about like this guy, whoever he is, Joseph, basically lives in this alternate other reality. He doesn't see the when I see it, or as the doctors there see it. He is locked up fully in his own head, his own imaginings. And that calls into mind the question of whether it's really a mental illness or not. Like, is it a mental illness to escape into another world in your own mind if the real world is complete crap and has nothing to offer you? You know, that doctor is raising a pretty good, interesting point. As long as he's not hurting anyone else, does it really matter whether he lives in our world or not? You know, sometimes an imagined world is better than the real one. I mean, we do that all the time, don't we? In movies, we watch movies like The Avengers and Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and all that stuff to escape into other worlds that are potentially better than ours, you know. Especially the Marvel ones, where you really have a world that's better than ours. You know, our world sucks, even if we don't have some of the extreme dangers that they have, like Thanos and all those villains, but still, they are better off than we are. And the thing is, in our real world, we recognize the solutions to our problems. You know, we know exactly what we have to do and how we have to do it. We just don't have the actual guts to do it. So, is it really a bad thing, a mental illness, if this guy Joseph chooses to live in some other fantasy world instead of ours? Frankly, to be honest, I gotta think the answer is no. You know, whatever makes him happy, as long as he's not hurting anyone. I can see why the doctor will be reluctant to treat him, because there's really no reason to treat him. And plus, then you bring in the theory of alternate universes, alternate dimensions, especially in Silent Hill, which takes place half inside another dimension. And then you gotta ask yourself, like, is Joseph really retreating to a fantasy world in the first place? Or is it like in Silent Hill Origins, where Mrs. Grady thought she was escaping into another place in the mirrors, and the doctors thought she was crazy, and no, she really was escaping into another place in the mirrors. Her mind went there. Her body remained behind, but her mind actually did go to another place. It's kind of like Reggie and Phantasm Ravager, the final entry in that series, where the doctor, and spoilers for this movie, like, seriously, this is real spoilers for the last part of the movie. Like, the doctors don't believe him, they think he's crazy, and Reggie himself thinks he's going crazy, seeing all these visions of the ruined world, you know, the devastated world that the tall man has pretty much left behind. And he thinks he's possibly crazy, but no, he's really shifting between two different realities. It really is an actual alternate universe that he's traveling to. And you really gotta wonder, which one of the two universes is he better in? Is he better in the normal world, the one that resembles ours, where Mike is still alive and there is no Jody or Tall Man or Liz or any of those other characters, but at the same time, Reggie's basically just an old man in a sanitarium? Or is he better off in the other world, where he has Mike? You know, where Mike is kind of undead and Jody is undead, and the world is pretty much a ruined, fractured mess. But at least Reggie has purpose there. He has a mission that he can fulfill, and he has friends. Like, in which world is he really better off? The normal world or the phantasm world, even if it is a ruined apocalyptic hell? You know, it really makes you question what exactly you want from reality. So you see that 2 doors are locked. 3 of them actually. Because believe it or not, that director's room will open up later on, so we gotta get the key for those. So it's time to do some exploring. And I admit that that part of this story really gets to me too. Simply because those who know me know that I partly live in a fantasy world, you know. I write fan fiction. Sometimes it's adventure filled. Sometimes it's steamy. You know, I write a lot of smut. I won't hesitate to admit that. With lesbian characters, bisexual characters, straight characters, I don't care. I just write a lot of smut. but I also temper it with some actual plot and story details. But the point is, I kind of prefer to live in that world because I can control what happens. Whereas in the real world, like, things just get crappy for no reason. You know, things suck and there's very little you can do to change it. We're seeing that right now this week. You know, I don't really want to get into politics here, but like this week has shown us that the real world that we live in really and you can't be blamed for wanting to escape into a world like Star Wars or Black Panther or anything like that, because it's an escape, you know? There's brightness, there's hope, there's optimism there. Whereas in the real world, especially in this country, you know, there's not a lot of hope or optimism left here, folks. It's just, we're all pretty much damned at this point. We're on the path of the damned. So yeah, I can perfectly understand someone's desire to live in an actual alternate place. But not like this. Oh, come on. Yeah, not like that. This is not the type of alternate world I want to live in. Okay, so we're actually gonna need our gun because Maria takes very little hits to actually kill her. Come on. James used a health drink, so we gotta kill this bitch immediately. Reload. Come on, Maria. Oh great, now we gotta get rid of the mannequin. Fuck. Ouch. Damn, I accidentally hit Maria by accident. Yeah, this is not the type of alternate world I want to live in. You know, give me the foggy Silent Hill any day. Damn, I just walked right into that. I didn't even know they were there. I thought the hospital was empty until you activated that door below. Shit. But anyway. Yeah, it's a difficult thing, I think, because if you escape too much into a fantasy, you won't realize, I guess you won't be in touch with the real world anymore. But if you let the real world affect you too much, well, it's pretty much a path to suicide, isn't it? Like, we as human beings cannot handle the crap that the real world throws at us, especially this week. So, you know what, sometimes it's best to just ignore it in favor of a fantasy world. Fantasy world won't destroy you so completely the way our reality, our crappy Earth does. Can't get the door open. I always wonder what was behind here. You know, what is behind here, because most of the doors say the lock is broken or else the lock. This one says you just can't get it open, so. Is it Pyramid Head holding it shut? You have a couple doors like that in Silent Hill 3 too. Ooh, now that was a nice poster. Something inside the pocket of the white lab jacket. Alright, we got the exam room key. We really need some health items too, like, no kidding, these thirsts are brutal. Especially on hard difficulty, like, even on normal mode, they're one of the only challenging enemies in the game. So, did anyone watch the Super Bowl this past week? The other week? I've gotta admit, I was disappointed. I was kinda rooting for the Patriots to win, because I really hate the Eagles at this point, but oh well, the Eagles won. kinda just hoping that the Patriots would win. And nope, Tom Brady dropped the ball. Literally. Literally he let the other guy steal it, so once I saw that, I knew it was over. And we got a shotgun. Our first real weapon that we can actually do damage with. Because the handgun is okay, but yeah, like we're not stopping those barrages of nurses with the handgun.
Ow!
What's wrong?
I just pricked myself.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
James is gonna need a tetanus shot after that, you know? Why don't you suck it better, Maria? I always hate when people do that too, like sucking on their thumb after they get pricked by a needle or something. Like, ew. Like, you really want to taste your own blood that much? You kidding me? Like, I just run down to the bathroom, wherever it is, at work or at home, and I just douse it in cold water. Like, I don't bother doing that whole thing where you're sucking on it, and I don't even know how that's supposed to stop the blood from bleeding. Like, seriously, what the hell? Alright, let's beat up these nurses. 'Cause I know they're gonna be right out there. Right in the groin too. Like, is it me or does anyone else notice that James's pipe strikes, unlike Harry's or Heather's in the other games, seem to be directed pretty much at the groin area? I mean, I guess they intended it to be the stomach, but yeah, like, knowing James and what I know about him, I wouldn't be surprised if that was intentional. You know, like, he's not, let's just put it this way without spoiling the whole game, he is not the nicest of guys. Here's some more of them. Actually, before we do that, let's go down there and use that examination room key, because I think there's a health drink and some bullets in there. There's also a code that I know we need, so let's go down there real quick. There's not as much backtracking in these games as there is in Resident Evil, for which I'm grateful. You know, I love Resident Evil, the early games, and 7, but all of the backtracking gets ridiculous at some points. You're just running all around that mansion, or that town, or that home, going back and forth. Ooh, there's some ominous music. Got some shotgun shells. Third floor patient wind hall. A5. Alright, we got the code. That's for the third floor. And we unlocked this door. Oh, so it was actually just one door that we needed to unlock. And then we could open this one from the inside. There's a memo hanging on the refrigerator. Food only, do not store drugs. It's funny, if you play as Heather in Silent Hill 3, she questions, is it health? Can you store health drinks in there? again, I don't think health drinks spoil, because if it's something that some gods or spirits or whatever it is that inhabits this town are providing you, then yeah, they probably make sure that they don't actually expire. You know, you don't want to really be drinking stuff that can poison you while you're trying to do one of their little quests. So health drinks are probably safe to drink even if you wait 10 years. So this door, we cannot open it right away here. This is actually locked until later. Opens at a pretty significant chunk of the game. So we'll get to that later. So let's go back up to the second floor. You ever notice that all those different potential weapons that you have in this hospital, and Maria chooses not to pick up one of them? And from a gameplay standpoint, it's actually pretty deliberate on the part of the developers. Like, obviously this is just your standard, what is it, escort mission, where you have to escort a non-playable character. But from a story perspective, it's pretty deliberate that she doesn't pick up any weapons or even attempt to fight. And you'll see why as we get further into the game. I think it never really occurred to me before, but I think it actually is a conscious choice on her part, especially if you play her scenario in the special edition of this game, the greatest hits version, which that is a really good scenario. Like, that is the way to actually do extra and downloadable content in games. Like, if this were DLC today, like the whole her scenario, if this were a modern game and that scenario was DLC, I'd definitely buy it in an instant. Like, it really is one of the better parts of the series. You know, it's one of the better aspects of the lore that can really reward you for playing it. So, it's so deep, man. Definitely, after you play this game, after you get done playing the main Silent Hill 2 game, I definitely recommend you play that scenario. I won't even tell you the name of it, just because it'll be a huge spoiler on its own. But yeah, it's great. But if you've never played this game, after you finish playing the main Silent Hill 2 game, definitely play that scenario. It is wonderful and exquisite. There's a typewriter here. I've got no use for this. Anybody else wonder how long it's been since they've seen a typewriter? One in years. It's been like 10 years at least. Wait a minute, what's this? There's a sheet of carbon paper still stuck in the typewriter. And carbon paper, that's another thing I haven't seen. Like, it's funny, I've seen pictures of it, and I think I've seen it on shows like the History Channel, like the modern Marvel series they did. I've never seen carbon paper in person. It's that outdated and old. We don't even use it anymore. I can still read the imprint left on it. I know it. I know the number of the box, 8218. It can't help him anymore. The button key doesn't scare me, so nobody can stop who I am. I don't know who I am is who I am is who I am, who I am is. That is actually the face of mental illness right there. And it sounds goofy, but it's actually pretty disturbing if you think about it. That is it. Losing control of your own faculties. You know, there's so much debate about mental illness today and how it's dangerous and people do horrible things because of it. No, true mental illness is just losing control of yourself. You know, and taken from someone who probably suffers from OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, I know because it shows up most when I'm even the actual typing. Take it from someone who probably suffers from that, even if it's undiagnosed. It is hell. It can be hellish. And I think that's why you also have to stop associating mental illness with psychopaths who go on rampages. You know, that's not mental illness. That's just you being an asshole, or being evil, or just being malevolent and vengeful. True mental illness is something that you suffer from. You don't use it to cause suffering to other If you think about it, a lot of us probably suffer from some mental illness of some sort because the human mind is just that fragile. Our human minds are just that fragile. Whether it's depression or OCD or just something minor, like a lot of us are probably affected by it at one point or another. Got shotgun shells. Got the lapis eye key. An eye is carved into the top of the key. The iris part is made of a lapis lazuli. I assume that's some type of jewel. One thing I gotta give it to this game and Silent Hill in general, especially in Silent Hill 3, some of these items are really beautifully crafted. Like, you can tell the developers spend a lot of time just creating the normal basic run-of-the-mill items that we find in the game. Keys, items, mementos, like they really put a lot of effort into this. So in case it wasn't plainly obvious, this is a mental hospital. There are two main hospitals in the game, I mean in the town. You have Brookhaven, which is the mental hospital, and you have Alchemilla, which is the regular hospital. And Alchemilla is pretty much the hospital where my favorite character, Alessa, stayed in there for 7 years. I won't spoil her story because that's a huge part of Silent Hill 3, but yeah. Alchemilla is generally the scarier one, the creepier one. You know, it is brutal in Silent Hill. It is scary as fuck. But Brookhaven, I think, is the more disturbing one simply because of the mental illness theme that's underlying this whole experience. And it'll get stronger as we go into the game. Oh, we have to retreat. We have to retreat, James. Damn. That nurse fucked me up. Holy shit. So we're gonna use the handgun because if we use the shotgun at this range, there's a real chance that we could kill Maria, so we gotta get her, we gotta get clear. Maria, get the fuck out. Maria, can you help out instead of actually just standing there and doing nothing? Lazy bitch. I love you, but man, you are really no use in a fight. I like Maria. She's actually one of my favorite characters in the series, but goddamn, can she just actually help out in some way? You know, instead of just standing there? And we are back. Nope, we are not doing that without preparation. Ready. We are not going into that room to get our ass beat by that nurse. Got handgun bullets. There's a TV. If it were Silent Hill Origins, you'd be able to pick it up and use it as a weapon. Which never made any sense, but oh well. So obviously this hospital's been abandoned for some time, but it's not uninhabited as you can see. Really depressing though, like you can see even when this place was running in its prime, this was probably not a happy place for people to stay in, which kind of follows the real history of mental hospitals. They went from being caring, actually pretty stimulating houses of care, they were carefully built. The Kirkbride buildings, they were carefully built, carefully designed. They were meant to help and heal people. And over time, over 30, 40, 50 years, and overpopulation, underfunding, they just became hells. That whole thing is fascinating. If you read about the history of those buildings, the Kirkbride buildings, I definitely recommend checking that stuff out because it is fascinating to see the history of mental hospitals. And it is, I can understand why some of them people claim they're haunted now. I'm a person who believes in, who accepts science. Obviously, I've always been interested in science, but I'm also a believer in the supernatural. And without getting into it, I've had several experiences that I know there's probably some truth to some of what these people are seeing in these buildings, especially the mental hospitals. Like I said, without getting into it, because I know that's a huge controversy, but yeah, I can definitely see why some places would create ghosts. Why ghosts would arise in those places. So that's not gonna work. We need a shotgun for that one. There's two of them, so I think we gotta kill them quickly. I don't remember if there's actually an important item there or if it's just ammo or health, but we gotta get rid of them. James, shoot her! What the hell are you waiting for? Jesus. Shotgun shells. So we wasted 2 shotgun shells to pick up 4 more. And here's a health drink, which we actually have to use now because we're in caution. Yeah. So that was a huge waste of time, guys. That was a huge fucking waste of time. There's some nice blood pools though. For a PS2 game, this still looks really good. Like, if you could just enhance it a little bit, if they had done some proper enhancements to it in the HD remasters, this could easily pass for a modern game. These games, they all 2, 3, and 4 could pass easily for modern games. Maybe not the most budget high games, but still, like, they look pretty good. And they only improved from here. So that's it for the second floor. We've pretty much explored all there is to explore in there. So now it's on to the third floor. So let's go to floor number 3 and see what's up there. You can also go to the attic, to the roof, but we're not going up there yet. Nope. One thing I hate about this though is how the enemies respawn. Like, they don't respawn in 1 and 3 like this. Like, when you kill them in 1 and 3, if you kill someone in Silent Hill 3 or Silent Hill 1, they stay dead. But here, you kill 3 nurses, you open the door, you close it, and when you open it again, there's 3 more nurses standing there ready to fuck you up. Like, seriously, like, you can tell the town has a grudge against you in this game, because it just sends enemies after you like nothing else. Like, even the ancients in Eternal Darkness aren't as fucking sadistic. And like I said, it's only to Silent Hill 2 because they don't respawn this way in 3, 1, or 4. I mean, 4 maybe a little bit, but even then, there's a limit to the enemies that you can kill there. Some areas will stay empty. But here, no, they just send everyone after you. Yep, here they are. Oh, come on. Better use that first aid kit because James is gonna die right here. And I'm not waiting, I'm shooting her with the shotgun. Jesus, right out of the fucking stairs, and there they are waiting for you. Like, they really hate James.